Hello everyone, I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And I haven't been making YouTube videos lately because I have a problem. I tripped over a student's backpack. I'm always working the room. I'm running around from table to table. Pre-pandemic, I was doing kind of an owl method hybrid thing where I had everyone put their backpacks against the wall. So I wouldn't do this because I knew that someday it was going to happen. I'm in a tiny portable. But after the pandemic, the students were just so needing a lot of hand holding and everything. So I was lax on it. And of course, I did trip over it. I broke my ankle really badly. I was lying on the floor telling the students, hey, go get somebody to help me, but get back to work. And of course, they wouldn't get back to work. And man, so anyway. This is about things that I'm doing now that I am in a wheelchair for a couple of months. And I had to have 1 week off where, I was in surgery, waiting for surgery because I had fracture blisters. It was so bad. And man, I got to tell you, writing subplans is so much harder than dragging yourself to school in a wheelchair. Oh my God. Subplans are crazy. But that week off, my students just kind of checked out. They just stopped doing anything. Like they weren't doing any work whatsoever, just talking in English the whole time. So I begged and begged the district and they let me Zoom to class. So I Zoomed for another 4 weeks where I had a substitute in the room. And fortunately I had enough pictures in my classroom that I was able to give her instructions. Okay, you're my arms and legs. I'm on the screen. Can you grab the cards that are here? Can you grab the papers that are here? This is where French 1, this is where French 2 is, this is where French 3 is, this is where Spanish, this is where Japanese is, blah, blah, blah. And so I was able to tell the substitute, grab this, grab the box of dice that's over here, we're playing this game. But man, it was so hard writing lesson plans, so hard. Zooming and trying to get the students, hey, why are you in the corner out of the camera view? I think you've got your cell phone out. And my substitute was a good person, but very young, doesn't have a teaching certificate yet. And so she didn't have the classroom management to make sure that the students were putting their cell phones away, to make sure that the students weren't talking in English, to make sure that the students were doing what I asked. And, here's the thing, Zooming was so hard. I'm like bedridden. My cats are all over me. I'm trying to get the students' attention. Oh, it was so crazy. So I thought I had done all the right stuff. I thought I had made that rapport with my students. I thought I had, Adiemi Stembridge, I read all that stuff, I thought I had a good rapport with them, that this wouldn't happen. I had all my systems in place. They knew what they needed to do. They had projects we were working on. They should have been able to do it without me. It should have been on automatic pilot, but it wasn't. They totally went Lord of the Flies without me. So one of the things that I did to get them back in line was I went back to something that I'd used many years ago, but I'd kind of stopped using it because it wasn't as much fun as some of the other games. But it's still a game, and I do like it, and it's got good points to it. So today I'm going to talk to you about Teams Games Tournaments, which is from the book The Strategic Teacher by Harvey Silver, Richard Strong, Matthew Perini. Really good book. Check your local library for it. And then when you look at it and you say, yeah, this is a really good book, then go ahead and buy it because it's got a lot of good ideas in it. And I tend to like the books that have like real meat and potatoes. This is something to do, not the like intangible, hoity-toity, I don't know. I like the actual, here's an idea books. And this has a lot of great ideas in it. Okay. So in Teams Game Tournament, and I'm just going to show you my cards instead of flipping through it. But basically any flashcards that you would use, you can take them and make them into Teams Game Tournament cards. So I went through Duolingo and I said, here are some of the skills I want the students to be working at. And I just printed them up. Okay. One of my textbook for Spanish class is Realidades, and then that turned into Auténtico. So I had just taken the flashcards out of that. I have this pretty good drill and kill book for French. That's Mastering French Adjectives. What had been published by Carlex. They're out of business now. Just took those. I added pictures because the picture support's really important. And then I just printed them off into cards. Let me show you the actual cards. So here we are in my very messy classroom because I can't wheel around and clean everything up. So that's okay. Life is like that. All right, so the cards, use just any kind of flashcards you want, you can use. So these are just straight out of Realidades, which is now Auténticos. All right, it took me a while to cut them all out. I had to cut out 10 sets because I had 30 students in the class, and each team is 3 people. So it took me a while to cut these because they're so tiny. I learned my lesson after a year of doing this with Spanish class. Here is cards that are out of Mastering French Adjectives. See, I just made them 3 per page. I just slice, went really quick for that one. And then when I was doing the Duolingo cards, even better, I made them super big and just made 2 per page and just slice through them. So that was really quick. But I need, I've got 31 students per class, so I need 10 sets of flashcards. But I do it on cardstock, and I can use this for any game I want. If I don't want to play Teams Game Tournament, I would just want to play a board game. Just plop them on the desk. If I just want the students doing whatever with the flashcards, I've got them for 100 million different things. The next thing I'm about to talk about is the answer key. You need to print out 10 answer keys, and normally I do them nice with cardstock on the back so that they last longer. But again, I'm in a wheelchair and it's hard to get down to the workroom and do stuff. So answer key, front page, so they can't see what's inside it, and answers on inside. And I will now talk about that with a prettier screenshot. So I just showed you the answer key, and again, just have one blank page as the front, and then the inside is the answer key, and the students have that answer key while they're playing the game. And you can write, like I write little things about how to remember, or why it's this answer and not another answer, different, like, hey, you could answer this, or you could answer this, or you could answer this. Okay. So the next thing you do is you need to go through your class list and make teams. And I let the students name their own teams. But here's the deal with this particular method. You make the teams yourself, and I will explain why. But 3 people per team, and they're study buddies, okay? The whole point of the team is just to help them practice with the flashcards. So while they're practicing, they have the flashcards, they have the answer key, and they get to do whatever note-taking strategy they need to do to remember. All right, and then the reason that we do this is because this is where you go through your grade book and you say, the student who's not doing too well, I'm going to pair him with this student who's doing great. So they're teaching each other, okay? And then you put a middle student in there too. So you need to make sure that you make the teams, and the students might grumble and stuff. And yes, I've had classes that work so well together. I'm like, you guys get to choose your own teams. But generally, you want to match your students who need support with your high flyers who are ready to move on to something else, and your middle ground students who just need more practice, because when they're practicing, they get more practice. Okay, so you give them a couple of days of, okay, guys, you got 15 minutes to practice for the game. Remember, the game is going in the grade book, so make sure you've trained your team up. And then on the big day, you have decided who is fighting against whom, okay? And this is all random. I just used Greek letters so that they didn't feel like they were deliberately put. So like my 3 students here who all have 102%, they're competing against each other. These students here, these are all like, they're down at 53%. They're competing against each other. Okay. These students are all in the middle of the pack. They've got all B's. They're competing against each other. Okay. No 2 people from the same team are competing against each other. The teams were your study buddies. This is the competition. Okay. So you just make sure that you don't have any of the teammates fighting against each other. All right. When on the big day of the competition, they get a paper to fill out, and everyone is writing. Everyone writes the answers. There's 3 people one person is drawing the card, everybody writes the answer, and then the person who drew the card, you get to see whether or not they got it right. But this way, it's basically like you've given everyone a test, and because they've got the answer key, one of the three people is the checker, okay? I'll explain more in detail in a second. But it's like they're checking their own tests, okay? They've got the scaffold of their writing, they're talking to each other, they're reading their answers, they're reading the cards, and they're speaking, reading, writing, listening. You got all four of them right there. I'm not doing a good job explaining it right now. Bell's about to ring, and I want to make sure I get this recorded. At the end, they fill out how many cards they won, they fill out whether or not they won the competition, and then how many points they're bringing back to the team, okay? Which is not necessarily the cards won, because Silver, Strong, Perini have a thing that they've written out. Okay, that's a little dry, so sometimes I don't want to play it their way. Sometimes we do a board game and we do it that way, and it's a little more fun. And let me show you what I show the students, okay, because this will explain it a little better. I'm going probably over my 10-minute that I was aiming for. Put the students in teams of 3 people. Try to score points for your team during the tournament, but right now you're just training. Okay? At any given moment, there's one person who's the player, there's one person who's the challenger, there's one person who's the corrector. Now, this will change every single round. Okay? So everyone gets a chance to do everything. Everyone's going to write their answers on the answer sheets, and I just showed you the answer sheet. The player chooses a card. Everyone writes their answers on the answer sheets. The challenger decides if he wants to challenge. If the challenger wants to challenge, he's going to read his answer, and the corrector double checks that it's right. If it is, the challenger gets the card instead of the player. But if he's not correct, the player reads his answer, and the corrector double checks. And if the player is correct, then the player gets the card. Oh, he also gets one of the challenger's cards too. But it's in your best interest to challenge and get it right, and to prevent the player from getting any cards. Okay? Play moves clockwise. Yes, you will notice this is not clockwise. I do lots of dumb stuff like this to see if my students are paying attention as I explain things. And I'm explaining rather fast for you. I also always explain in English because I learned my lesson my first year that if I give instructions in the target language, often I have students who pretend to understand, but they don't understand. Goal right now is train your team to be victorious, okay? You can take notes, you can quiz each other, you can give each other study hints, whatever you need to do to be victorious. Faces. I'm just filming the table. Whoa there. What is this side? It's not, but it is. There's a number of pages where you write it. Jordan, would you hold up the card and show it to the camera? I'm not showing your face. I just want to a little lower. Should be fine. Okay. All right. Yeah. Merci. So like I said, that's a bit dry. So oftentimes I'll just do it as a board game instead, and the students don't realize that it's basically the same thing. It's also hard sometimes for the students to keep track of who's doing what, but we get there. I explain this in more detail in my book. I also have lots of other games in my book, and I have a new book coming out. It's been a little delayed because of the broken leg thing, but it will be about game-based learning in the language classroom. So thanks for listening, and I hope this gives you some ideas, and you can always write comments down below, and I will answer them and give you more details, or tell me how you've tweaked things, because I'm always looking for good ideas. So thank you very much. See you on the next one.